Okay, we're rolling. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is that you do.
My name is Kyri Demby. I'm the music teacher at Jacob Elementary School. I'm also an author. I have written 8 children's books. And I'm actually working on another book for adults called The Self-Corrected Student that teaches teachers how to teach students social emotional learning.
Now tell us how you got started writing. Now was this something that you decided to do one day, or was this something that's been a long time in the making?
I actually started in 6th grade. I wrote my first Lori Biscuit story. And I was actually mad at my cousin, and her name is Lori. So I was mad at her, and I made her like this 300-pound detective who 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 solves like crime, like who stole the stuff from the bakery. And so that was like the first Lori Biscuit story that grew. And so then after I became a music teacher, I took Lori Biscuit and made her a musical detective and used musical concept. She uses musical concepts to solve crime or to solve problems.
Now I gotta know, was Lori impressed?
After I turned it into the musical detective. Actually, I never told her that I would that it was.
So she don't know that
told her that it was the 300-pound bakery detective. But I still have the paper that I wrote in 6th grade with that story on it.
So let's fast forward to your first book. How did that come about? The actual book, a printed copy.
Right. I always, as a classroom teacher in my classroom, I always tell stories. I like sit the kids down and just make up a story on the spot of whatever I'm trying to teach them. So if I'm trying to teach them about, decrescendo, which means to get softer, I make up a story about the decrescendo, and I'm using my decrescendo ray, and you use your decrescendo ray. And so that's what happened. I was saying these stories, and I was like, well, somebody, I don't remember who it was like, you should turn that into a book. And so I went and found out how to publish a book, and I first went to a self-publishing company called Author House, and I paid them to do the pictures and do all of that stuff, which was pretty pricey. But yeah, after I did that, that was like my first book. After I paid them to do the pictures and everything, and they showed me how to put it together. Yeah, the Lori Biscuit, the musical detective.
What was the response? How did things work out with that book?
The thing is with me, I have always been too shy to tell people. Like, I never even told anybody that I wrote the first book that I wrote. I didn't tell anybody until 2009 when I wrote the second book that I had actually published a book. So after the first book, I really didn't tell anybody because I didn't want like people to think I was trying to double dip, or like I'm teaching and trying to get the school to buy my book, and so I just really didn't tell anybody really. And I actually, the second book, was Lori Biscuit book also, and the escape of Fortissimo. And so in that book, Fortissimo was this big monster that was destroying everything, and so she used her decrescendo ray to make him get softer. And I kind of like my uncle. My uncle was ran like this local newspaper, and that was the same year I received Teacher of the Year at my school. And so he kind of put that in the newspaper. He's the Teacher of the Year, and he published 2 books. And so that was like the first time anybody actually found out that I published books. But like I would carry them, I would read them to my students, and my students knew. They all would be like, oh, this is a good story, but I wouldn't really tell anybody else.
What did you learn from that first book about the authoring process, the whole process of it?
I did learn that it's easier and not easier. Well, easier if you try to learn the process on your own and do it for yourself. It's also cheaper. Like now, Amazon, and before it was Amazon, it was CreateSpace, where you can upload your book for free, and then they help you create the cover. Like, I wish I would have known that kind of stuff back then, because with Author House, I'm having to pull my book from the shelf now with them, because, well, they've already pulled it from the shelf and they just have the digital copies available. So like after I paid all that money, I feel like, look, y'all should leave these books up. Like, don't pull them, you know. So, but what I learned is learn as much as you can so that you can do it on your own. It's easier to do, you know, if you're not going to go the traditional route. Like a lot of people, it is, and I did go the traditional route first. I sent letters to publishers and asking, you know, sending them the manuscript, and I got a lot of rejection letters and things like that. So then I was like, look, I'll try self-publishing. And so, yeah, but now years later, it's so much easier to format it and upload it yourself, and that's how I've ended up publishing the last 6 books.
Now, going back to those rejection letters, now that you've done 7 books since then, what do you think you were missing with that first book, and why were they rejecting you or rejecting your book?
I feel like I lacked the confidence of, like in my letter, it was almost like, you know, this book may not be any good, but if you please just look at it, you know that how you have that kind of like, just like when you get up to sing a solo and be like, now we didn't get to practice, y'all, but just forgive us. You know, if you already come up with an excuse, people not gonna want, I don't want to hear you. You already told me it's not gonna be good. And so I really think that's what those first few letters, I really wasn't confident. I was like, well, I don't know if people gonna like this book. And when you send letters to publishers, you have to like own your craft. Like, I know these books are great. Like, I can tell you now, my books, the music books are good also, but now the last few books I've written are to help children like be self-aware and use self-control, tell the truth, be kind to each other. And so I can tell you, these books that I've written can change your children's behavior. So like I can boldly say that now. Not, oh, well, if you listen, but that's the difference. Like, I can boldly say, I've seen these books work, and because of Simon the Self-Control Seal, he has a song and he says, stop, think, and breathe, and make the right choice. And I teach all of my children that, and like my whole school sings it. And that's the first thing I say whenever they start getting in trouble. Stop, think, and breathe. And now they saying it to their parents. They go home and say, their parents come and say, Mr. Demby, you wouldn't believe my child said to me, stop, think, and breathe, and make the right choice. So, I feel like that's the difference. And with me, I don't know with anybody else, but my confidence level has kind of shifted. I'm still a little bit, but yeah.
No, I'm gonna keep it real with you. If I was going off on my son and he starts singing that song, he might get shifted.
That's what they said.
But going back to what made you? Did you think the kids had a need for? It goes to me. Goes back to why did you write the individual books that you wrote? Was this something that you saw a need for, or was this something that you felt you wanted to express yourself, and this is how it came out? What was the approach? What was the reason why? Are these a series or individual books that you released?
Some of them are series. Well, I did see a need for it. As I said, when I teach, I tell stories automatically. And so Simon the Self-Controlled Seal, I had my second graders, and I always have them say a pledge at the beginning of the day. I am the best, so I will act like the best. I will use self-control. I will make good choices. And so they didn't really know what self-control meant. So like that story, Simon the Self-Controlled Seal, came out of teaching them about self-control, like what it means when you're on the bus and everybody else is going crazy. You just sit there, because that's what I used to tell them. I don't care what everybody else is doing. When you are on this bus and you in my class, you sit there and be quiet. You look around and look at everybody else and say, oh, they going crazy, but not me. I'm going to sit here, stop, think, and breathe, and make the right choice, and I'm going to make the right choice. And so that's what I used to tell them. Like, we would be walking down the hall and everybody else be walking and talking and going crazy. And I tell them, not my class. I don't care what everybody else doing. What my class do, we use self-control. Show me. And that's what they do. So, like, that's where that story came out of. And so all the other stories to follow came out of like other things, telling the truth. That I have Taylor the Truth Telling Tiger, where he did ticka ticka toot toot, ticka toot toot, stop, think, and tell the truth. And so all of those things come out of that, just in my classroom. Now the other stories I have, which are like scary stories, the one-legged man, the headless man in the woods, the devil's lesson. Those are stories that were told to me when I was younger. Like my mom told me she was being bad, and my aunt went outside when they were younger, when they weren't supposed to, and when they came back in, it was like this one-legged man chasing them. So those stories come from like what things we heard when we were coming up. And I just put them into a kid story form.
So are all your books geared towards children?
Yes. Except the one that I'm working on now. Well, the two that I'm working on now that's geared toward teachers and leaders of, even companies, or one is called The Self-Corrected Student, and the other one is called The Art of Allowing Students to Be. So allowing students to be who they are, building relationships with students. Maya Angelou said, people, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And I tell teachers, students walk in the building showing you who they are. Believe them. And you just have to love them for who they are. If that's a snake right there, love it as a snake. You can't turn a snake into a bear or into a bird, and that's what teachers, they try to make the snake fit in right here into this bird category, and that's a snake. You can just make it the best snake it could be, and so those two books are my adult books, because that's why I want to get into the arena of more of, I have been doing a few workshops, but teaching teachers to kind of think like I do and teach like I do. So, but most of my other books, all of my other books are children's books.
With this being the start of a new school year, and some of the things that we might have learned during the pandemic about distance learning and things like that, is your approach to teaching kids music the same? Has anything changed over that time that makes it easier or harder for kids to learn?
Well, I over the pandemic, I did have to learn to give kids choices. Normally in my room, if I want everybody to play the piano, we all gonna play the piano. If I want everybody to play the recorder, we all gonna play, So now I'm learning all kids don't want to do that, And then like all kids, sometimes you do have to force kids to do something for them to try it first. Like I tell everybody, I try everything once. And if I don't like it, I won't do it again. If I do, I'm going to keep trying. Or if I feel like I can do it, and sometimes you have to get kids to try things because they feel like they should be perfect the first time they do it. And they're not going to be perfect. So when I do the piano, I say try the piano. They see what everybody else do. Like, they'll watch you. They just see your hands moving. They don't know 15, 30 years of lessons went into your hands moving. So they think, and so when they can't do it and make the sound, they don't want to do it anymore. But you have to push them. And so that over the pandemic, I really couldn't, I didn't have instruments for them to play. So they learned on their phone using the app, the piano app and things like that. And so actually over the pandemic, that's what I started a YouTube show called Music in Pajamas. Because that's how I used to make my kids put on their pajamas when they come to my class. So we would have class in our pajamas. I would make them go get pots and pans. Now the parents, y'all would be mad. But that's what I would make. They would get pots and pans and bang on the pots and march around, and we would just have a good time. And so, but I turned it into a YouTube series so the kids could go back and watch it and learn. And so that's kind of what I learned. You got to give kids choices, but also you got to push them a little bit to try new things.
I'm curious how much that has stuck with the kids over the years. Like how many of them are genuinely have become interested in music and moved on to take it further than the classroom?
I think I had several students who have come back to me and told me, Mr. Demby, you got me started doing this and doing that, and now I'm doing it. I used to give away my keyboards. Every year I end up buying brand new keyboards, and by the end of the year, some kid is, Mr. Demby, I'm really interested in this, and so I give them my keyboard and give them a keyboard. And so those students have come back to me, Mr. Demby, you don't know, I'm still playing the keyboard. I actually have a piano student who has started his own YouTube channel where he teaches other people how to play the piano. And he knows how to, those drop down notes, and he does all of that. But I have a lot of students who have come back and told me, they're singing, or actually one of my students who played the guitar for me in 5th grade when he was in Florida. He was like, Mr. Demby, you the one who got me started on the guitar. And he was asking me if I had some of those. I normally keep my old videos from my concerts. And that was the one video I didn't have. But yeah, they come back. A lot of them remember it.
So what's next for you? Are you taking this to the next level? Is it something that you want to turn into an animated, because now you're on YouTube, so it's more of a visual presentation. Is this something that you're going to start a cartoon animated series? Is that, or where are you looking to grow this?
Well, I would like I tell people, don't laugh. I feel like I'm Mr. Rogers / Madea. So when you come in my classroom, like, you're gonna get the loving Mr. Rogers type, but when you don't act right, you're gonna get the sit down somewhere. What did I tell you to do? And so I would like to start like a Mr. Rogers. Like, if I could take the Music in Pajama series and make it a TV show, or like, that's really what I would love to do, to make it a broader, to give more people a chance to, just because I incorporate those stories, Stop, Think, and Breathe. I incorporate a lot of social, emotional learning in my classroom. Just things like that. If I could do that on a broader scale, I think that's where I want to go. That's where I feel like I'm moving toward. Yeah, if I can get there, that's where I'm.
So where can people find your work?
Everywhere. I'm on YouTube, Demby's Playful Parables, and for teachers, I have Demby's Teaching Tips. On Amazon, you can just type in Kyri Demby, and all of my books will show up. Even the books where I've helped other people write their books, or I've co-written books with people, those books will show up. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I try to do Twitch and all of. I don't know those yet. I'm still learning them. But yeah, you can find me if you can almost just Google my name, Kyri Demby, and everything that I have will show up. I have music on Apple Music, Spotify, all of the places where you get music. I have kids music. Yeah.
Tell us about the kids' music.
Well, most of them go with my books. It's always a lot of talking about doing what's right, being kind, using self-control, bullying prevention. The same concepts that I teach in my books. I have songs that go with those. And I have a nephew who, I'll just give him a concept. I'll say, hey, I want to write a song that says, I told him, I think the other day, I was like, bullies are scared, bullies need love, stand up to the big bully. And so he made up this song, and bam, boom. We have music on Amazon. On Apple. So yeah, it's all of it is to tie in with helping children to be self-aware and kind of use that self-control, that inner self-control and the inner, goodness that they have.
So I meant to ask you about Anna, about the artwork for your later books. How did that work? Did you farm that out? How did you get your illustrations, or did you?
Okay. Well, my sister, when at first she started doing the artwork for all of my books. But my sister, she's one of those people like me, actually. I'm not going to talk bad about her because me and her are just alike. She'll start one project and then move to something else and then move to something else and then be like, oh, let me go back to this project. So she started the pictures for Lori Biscuit. But I was like, girl, you're taking too long. So I went through the company. But the Simon the Self-Control Seal, the Simon books and the Taylor the Truth-Telling Tiger, she did the pictures for those. The pictures for my later books, the Tales of the Steel Quarters, which are the scary books, those were done by a Louisville artist, Randy Gray. And he goes to Antioch, and I used to be at Antioch Baptist Church. And so he does the pictures for those books.
So I know on KDP you can turn your stuff or sell your audiobooks. Is your stuff only available in the printed version, the digital download, or is it an audiobook, or have you thought about doing that? Or
I have 2 audiobooks, and actually my piano student who I was telling you about, Reggie, he does all of my book interior and book covers, and he's working on my audiobook. So he's gonna put them. He uploads whenever he's finished. He just uploads it. But yeah, Reggie does all that stuff. Yeah, so I think there are 2 of my books that are audiobooks right now. And I'm waiting on, we just working to build up those other ones.
now my last question is about when you had your next book coming out, when we could expect that, and what you be anticipating this book.
Actually, it was supposed to be out this summer, but this summer, I didn't do anything. So my next, actually, I forgot to tell you about the next series I started. Me and the PE teacher at my school started a series called The Adventures of John Ye and KK. And it's about 2 brothers. One of them is white, one is black. And one of them is having a gender identity crisis. Kind of, playing baseball, but seeing the cheerleaders and like, oh, I want to be a cheerleader. And like, they having to have that kind of, so it's kind of a touchy, edgy book. So that one should be, it was going to be out this summer, but I'm thinking more October-ish. And then the Self-Corrected Student, which is for teachers, should be out in January. Yeah.
Okay. Well, whenever you put out your next book, we'll have you back on to have you talk about it.